Hello and welcome to NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and we're here at the South Park Center. I'm here with Aaron with his movie Paper Cutter. Let's take a look at the clip. Aaron, thank you for being here, and thank you for coming all the way from the wonderful Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here.
No, thank you very much. And listen, thank you for bringing your film. I loved it so much. I think it was such an important film. For those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Yeah, so it's essentially about an MMA fighter who's got some issues with personal space and anger, and he's court ordered to go to a hugging therapy group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of the opposite of his comfort zone.
Well, I mean, I've been to quite a few fights to watch, and it's a very different world. It's definitely not a very huggy world.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to see this character dynamic, you know, kind of him going through something like this. And I love the story. Where did the inspiration come for you in creating this project?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been pretty fascinated by extremely broken characters, people that have something really, really wrong on the inside, and the process they're going through to try and figure out maybe how to correct it or just even understand it. So I was actually at a kickboxing class, I was the locker room was kind of up here, and then the workout floor was down here. And I was sitting up there. I had to take my time because it was like the hardest workout of my life.
Yeah,
and so
right?
yeah, so I was sitting there. I was like wiping the sweat off, and I looked down at the instructor, and I'm like, what kind of like storm do you think is going on inside that guy's head, potentially? You know, that would being kind of surrounded by that all the time, like working in something that's kind of like, you know, on the edge of violence all the time. Like what's going on up there for him? And so that just really interested me, and I thought, you know, what's the most uncomfortable thing you could do with somebody like that? And it's intimacy, I think, you know, at least for this, that's what I think it would be. So I put him in a very intimate situation that requires a lot of feelings, something that I don't think people like that tend to be comfortable with. So yeah.
Well, I think when someone is like an athlete and has got, you know, certainly connecting a lot every day with their physical ability, but not their emotional kind of connections and abilities. I think that was really interesting. I think sometimes what I loved about this film is you kind of reminded us and taught us that, okay, well, maybe because a certain person is this way doesn't mean they haven't got things going on inside.
Right.
And we're so, as humans, so quick to judge people. And I love that you shared this story, because I think sometimes we see the other perspective of someone that's got issues such as that. We don't really see kind of what they're going through. We just kind of tend to see what causes and what effects they're having on other people.
Right.
I think it was very powerful. Is that something you kind of wanted to show as well, particularly?
Yeah, and I think even more so actually, it's the appearance of somebody like that who reacts violently to things. It's easy to see that's just who that person is. Somebody that's violent, that's all they do. And most people don't understand that everybody's going through something. And in his case, he's working through some things, you know, to try and figure it out, to try and come to a place of healing, even if he wasn't intending on that. That's eventually where he ends up. So yeah, it's about, you know, making sure you understand that everybody has their own things they're dealing with, internally, externally, and it's good to try and look past just what you see initially.
I think you taught a lot about just character and just how we, you know, sometimes just have an impression of somebody before we really know the situation or the person. What I loved about the film as well is you know, it was beautifully shot. First,
Thank you.
It was really wonderfully shot, and I love all the flashbacks you kind of took us to as well. Is that something did you always have plans to kind of have those kind of flashback moments to kind of piece it all together?
Yeah, because I mean, he's going through kind of this gauntlet. It's almost like it's the worst day of his life. Like this is the thing that he dreads the most, is having to open up to people. Yeah. And so as he's sitting in there, kind of going through the journey inside his own head, everything that's happening around him is kind of helping him remember why he's there, and in the same regard, looking back at what he did wrong maybe in those circumstances. And so it was always the intention to kind of remind him, and at the same time, you know, let the audience in on what he's been going through and why he's even there.
Well, I love the lead character in your ensemble cast. He 100% looked like he was an athlete of some sort. How was the casting process for you? Because he looked perfect for that role.
You know, I got really, really lucky because I had somebody else in mind, somebody I'd been talking to while I was writing it, and he had agreed to do it and everything. And about 2 weeks before we started shooting, he dropped off the face of the earth.
Which happens, sadly.
It does. Yeah. It does. Yeah, happened a few times on this movie with some other people as well. But that was the one that was the worst because, I'd been talking to him. He was really in tune with the character, and that's what I was going for. And he was really, really intense. And then he just kind of like disappeared. And so we had to scramble. And luckily, we got with a casting agency who put me in contact with Dele Opeifa. And didn't even have time to really audition with him. So I just met him for coffee, and he'd read the script, and so we talked through it. And it seemed like he really understood what I was going for.
He's perfect.
He's perfect, yeah. And I think he actually turned it out better than the guy I had in mind originally, because he plays everything with his eyes. Like, you don't need to hear anything from him.
Well, he does. I mean, I was just completely enthralled of what he was going through and was trying to piece all the things and you could really, in his eyes, you could tell a lot was going on. What does that feel as a director then? Because when you got a setback like that, and you're like, it's very worrying. You have to,
it's
balance.
terrifying.
It's terrifying. You got to balance all your cast, all your crew. But then it must feel like magic when you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
After the first few bumps of the first day where you kind of get into the groove of it, and you start kind of like getting from your bigger stuff down to breaking into your kind of smaller characters and following them around the scene and stuff like that. Once I got the camera kind of like close on him, and I use a lot of close-ups of him because I love close-ups, it started to become very, very clear that he was gonna crush it.
He was gonna,
and he did. And as soon as we looked at the footage after the shoot, we were like, he's doing this for sure.
No, you also had some fight scenes in there as well.
Yeah.
How is that for you as a director to coordinate? Like, how is that process?
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm not really I'm not an MMA fan really. Like, it's not really a thing that I follow. It just felt right for this story that it'd be a character like that. And so when it came to the fighting, like, I had no idea, what it should look like, what would be authentic or anything like that. But I had, what I wanted to take place, with the characters and emotionally in that scene. So I actually have a friend who's a Muay Thai fighter, and so I actually went to him and I said, "Hey man, I'm trying to figure out this is what I want to accomplish in this scene. This is kind of how I want it to end up. What kind of moves could we do? What kind of choreography could we do that would get to that point?" So he ran me through a bunch of stuff, and he introduced me to a friend of his that was going to be the fighter that was opposing Darcy, the main character in the scene. And we went through some fight choreography, did that a couple times, and that was really, really cool because, just seeing this thing that I had in my head, but looking completely different than I knew what it might be. And so we ran through a bunch of that stuff. And then, so the day of the first shoot, when we were shooting the big group scene, I got word that the guy that he had been practicing with had hurt his leg, had hurt his knee, and so he wasn't able to. So I found out, middle of the day, that the next morning, what we're going to be shooting. You got through
quite a few things, didn't you?
Yeah, I lucked out. I definitely lucked out.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, you got through so many challenges. I think I love that because I think so many people get like put off by these challenges, like how are we going to do this, what's going on, and I love that you've overcome all of these, kept a level head, and just said, right, we're going to still do this. Yeah,
well, I was very lucky to have a really good team, and so my producer, when we found out that this fighter wasn't going to be showing up, he started kind of digging in, like, okay, what can we do? One of my actresses, luckily she overheard it, and she's like, hey, I have a friend that might be able to help out, and so I was busy directing, so my producer, Josh Oman, went off and he just started like making phone calls, and before I knew it, he's like, we got a guy for tomorrow, and I'm like, okay. And then we showed up the next morning. We hadn't had a chance to work with him or anything like that, and luckily he was awesome. And Dele remembered the choreography, and he this new guy even changed stuff up a little bit. It was Vadim, and he changed it up a little bit. And he's like, no, this would be a little more authentic if we did it this way and this way, and like he made it better. So every time I had a challenge, the solution ended up actually, I think, making it better.
That's a really good piece of advice. Is not to
embrace the chaos. I think.
Embrace the chaos. There you go.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I love from a storytelling perspective that I think is universal for many people is sometimes we hold on to things from when in our childhood that may have affected us, and they affect us for our adult life. And it's not until we become an adult that we kind of look back at that and think how much that's affected us. And I don't want to give anything away, but you showed that in the film, and I thought that was really powerful because. I think you showed an essence of overcoming and getting through situations in life, and there's a particular flashback in there that stuck with me, and I thought, wow, that's really powerful, and how we should find ways in which to let go, find ways into was that something important you kind of want to share with your audience?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think that it is really important to nobody's perfect, and obviously Darcy in this is not a perfect character. He's done some messed up stuff, but I think the important thing is to be able to reflect back on that, look at the things you've done wrong, and see if there is any way you can at least fix it moving forward. You probably can't repair the past, probably not, but you can change and be different from that point forward. And so in order to do that, you need to look at your past. You need to see maybe why you're doing the things you're doing and acting the way you're acting, and I do think that's important.
Well, what's it like to have your film going from, looking on the edits on a laptop to taking it to a big screen, filmmakers? How's that feeling for you?
It's cool. It's a lot of fun. I mean, because in the end, it's cool to go to festivals. It's cool to win stuff, whatever. But in the end, I do this because I want to entertain people. I want to, I want to make a movie and I want to show it to people and I want them to have feelings about it. And so, especially, seeing it with an audience of total strangers is the most terrifying but liberating thing ever, because you kind of you hear the people around you, you see how they're reacting to stuff, and that can be good, it can be bad, but it's it's always really interesting, and it also kind of tells you what you did that worked and what maybe didn't work, and so it's good to pay attention to that.
No, very much so. And what's next for you, Aaron?
Next for me, so I've written my next short. It's called Jump Seat, and it's a kind of Drive inspired. But it's about a low-level criminal a woman who's trying to break out of that and pursue her dreams of being a singer. But she has to make it through this one particular night first alive before she can do that.
Wow, you are always challenging us in your filmmaking. I love it.
I try to. I try to do things that, especially in Salt Lake, the film community. There's a lot of people that want to do, action movies, or since it's a desert, there's a lot of people who do like a post-apocalyptic stuff. But I don't think that there's enough art films coming out of Salt Lake.
No,
and so you're
leading the way.
That's what I'm trying to do, at least. I mean, there's definitely some, but I don't think there's enough.
I love that.
I'd like there to be more. And so I want things that hopefully challenge people and things that challenge me. I mean, this next one's going to be, a lot of it takes place, in a car, driving around the city, there's rooftops, it's definitely going to be a challenge, but if I can do it, I think it's going to work really, really well. Yeah, no, definitely. I love that you're embracing your community and the filmmakers and the network and all the people that are there to kind of that's what it's all about, right?
It is. You got to really embrace your community. I love that you're doing that. Well, Aaron, listen, thank you for the paper cutter. And anyone out there, I think we heard it here, embrace the chaos, okay? All right, get out there, embrace the chaos. But no, thank you for coming from Salt Lake City as well. Appreciate it. And we're looking forward to seeing your next film, Jumpstart. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks for having me.
Aaron,